Look at this image. Not the blood, not the suit, not the rage. Look at the emptiness. This is what happens when a man has status, money, discipline on the outside, but no internal foundation. Most people misunderstand American Psycho. They think it's about violence. It's not. It's about a man with no identity. So he builds one out of approval, comparison, and control. And that's why this matters. Because there are a lot of men today who look successful, but inside they're hollow. They work out. They make money. They dress well. But they don't know who they are without the mask. Patrick Bateman isn't dangerous because he's angry. He's dangerous because nothing inside him is real. Everything he does is borrowed. His opinions, his taste, his personality, his confidence. He's a mirror, not a man. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A man without a core will always overcompensate. He'll chase extremes. He'll chase validation. He'll chase sensation. Because silence exposes him. Ask yourself this, and answer honestly. Who are you when no one is watching? No audience. No praise. No comparison. That's your foundation. And if you don't like that answer, that's not a reason to panic. That's your starting point. Here's where most men go wrong. They think self-improvement is about adding more. More money, more muscle, more confidence, more dominance. But real strength starts with subtraction. Removing the fake persona, the need to impress, the constant comparison, the hunger to be seen. Because a man who knows who he is doesn't need to prove it. Patrick Bateman's problem wasn't discipline. It was direction. He had control over his body, but no control over his soul. And that's the warning. You can become extremely capable and still be completely lost. So here's the principle. Burn this into your mind. A man without identity will destroy himself trying to feel real. That destruction doesn't always look violent. Sometimes it looks like addiction, affairs, burnout, rage, emptiness. A quiet life you secretly hate. The fix is not motivation. The fix is alignment. What do you stand for, even when it costs you? What do you refuse to do, even if it benefits you? What rules do you live by when no one is enforcing them? That's masculinity. Not the suit, not the image, not the performance. A man with identity doesn't chase stimulation. He doesn't spiral. He doesn't split into two versions of himself. He's integrated, calm, grounded, unimpressed. So take the lesson. Build your body, yes. Build your income, yes. Build your discipline, absolutely. But build your inner code first. Because if you don't know who you are, the world will hand you a mask, and eventually you won't know how to take it off. Cut. A man without identity will destroy himself trying to feel real. Now here's the next layer, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. Patrick Bateman doesn't lack discipline. That's the lie people tell themselves. He wakes up early. He trains his body. He follows routines. He tracks details. On paper, he looks controlled. But here's the truth. Discipline without self-control becomes obsession. And obsession is not strength. Obsession is weakness dressed up as intensity. A controlled man chooses his actions. An obsessed man is owned by them. Bateman isn't in charge of his impulses. He's enslaved by them. That's why everything escalates. More stimulation, more extremes, more shock. Because when discipline isn't anchored to purpose, it has no brakes. And this is where modern men are getting it wrong. They think, if I'm intense, I'm disciplined. If I'm extreme, I'm committed. If I push harder, I'm in control. No, self-control isn't about how far you go. It's about knowing when to stop. Ask yourself this, honestly. Do you decide when you stop, or do your urges decide for you? Because if you can't stop, you're not disciplined. You're dependent. Food, porn, work, anger, grinding, even self-improvement. Anything can become an addiction if it owns your nervous system. Bateman can't sit still. Silence exposes him. Stillness terrifies him. So he fills every gap with stimulation, comparison, violence, excess. That's not power. That's a man running from himself. Here's the line most men need to hear. Self-control is not restriction. It's authority over yourself. A man with self-control doesn't need to prove intensity. He doesn't need chaos to feel alive. He doesn't need extremes to feel important. He can sit in silence. He can delay gratification. He can walk away. That ability to walk away is one of the highest forms of masculine power. Bateman never walks away. He escalates. And escalation is always a sign of internal weakness. If your habits are getting louder, stronger, more extreme, That's not progress. That's loss of command. A controlled man can enjoy pleasure without drowning in it. An obsessed man doesn't enjoy it. He needs it. Big difference. If you can't stop, you're not in control, no matter how disciplined you look. Muscles don't mean control. Money doesn't mean control. Routines don't mean control. Control means choice. And if you're honest, there's probably one area of your life where you don't choose. You react. That's your work. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Now, because obsession always ends the same way. Burnout, collapse, or self-destruction. And the men who avoid that fate aren't the most intense. They're the most governed. Most men think control looks aggressive, rigid, cold. It doesn't. Real control is quiet. It's a man who doesn't need to react to everything that touches his ego. It's a man who can feel an urge and not obey it. It's a man who can pause. That pause is everything, because in that pause, you choose. A man without control is always in motion, always reacting, always chasing the next hit. Pleasure, validation, anger, distraction. A controlled man can sit still with discomfort. He doesn't numb it. He doesn't escape it. He doesn't dramatize it. He uses it. That's the difference no one talks about. Most men aren't weak. They're ungoverned. Their mind runs them. Their impulses steer them. Their emotions negotiate their decisions. And they call that being human. No, that's being unmanaged. Control starts when you stop negotiating with yourself. When you say, "This ends here," not loudly, not emotionally, just firmly. A man with control doesn't need rules for everything. He has standards. He doesn't ask, "Can I get away with this?" He asks, "Is this aligned with who I'm building?" That question alone filters out most bad decisions. Here's the hard truth. You don't rise to the level of your discipline. You fall to the level of your self-command. When pressure hits, when temptation shows up, when no one is watching, that's who you are. Patrick Bateman collapses because there's no governor, no internal authority, no line he won't cross once escalation begins. And escalation always begins the same way, ignoring small compromises. Letting one impulse slide, letting one boundary bend, letting one urge take the wheel. Control isn't built in extremes. It's built in those moments. What you eat when you're tired, what you watch when you're alone, what you say when you're angry, what you do when no one would know. That's the training ground. A controlled man doesn't need to dominate rooms. He dominates himself. He doesn't chase stimulation. He doesn't spiral. He doesn't leak energy into things that don't matter. He moves slower and farther. So if you want real control, stop asking how to add more discipline. Ask where you've been avoiding responsibility over yourself. Because the strongest man in the room isn't the loudest, isn't the angriest, isn't the most extreme. It's the one who can walk away, stay composed, and choose his actions every time. That's control. And once you have it, nothing owns you.